Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to our latest. I'm a physicist. Get me out of here. No, meet a physicist. We've got three people I'm going to introduce you to tonight, but you may be able to figure out by this odd little office and these fish swimming here that we're not actually in Woolsthorpe Manor. Unfortunately, with all of us in Tier 3 and Woolsthorpe Manor in Tier 3, we decided that it was probably not the right thing to do to go there. We will be going in the new year at some point, and Woolsthorpe would love me to tell you that it is available for guiding groups to visit once everyone's allowed to visit things again. And you may be wondering what on earth it is. It's actually the home of Isaac Newton. Now, you probably will have heard of Isaac Newton. I hope you have anyway. He's the guy who split the light, discovered calculus, a whole load of other stuff that you're probably going to meet at some point in the future. So I'm David. I'm not going to be doing most of the talking this evening, although you can probably think that I'm doing most of it now. But I'm going to be reading out your questions for the three physicists who are joining us here tonight. The first is Katie Dexter. Give us a wave, Katie. So she's an imaging physicist at Queen Mary University of London. The second is Lama Hamadeh. Sorry, what specialism is yours?
Physics and math.
Physics and maths at Nottingham Trent University. And finally, Claire McIlroy, who is a lecturer at University of Lincoln. So what we're going to do this evening is that for 5 minutes each of our physicists are going to introduce themselves to you, tell you a little bit about themselves and what they do all day. You can see it's very exciting. Lama's actually in a laboratory, which is something unusual at the moment. So each of them are going to spend 5 minutes introducing themselves to you, and then you will be able to ask questions. So you will be able to ask the questions by coming up here. If you don't see this yet, you click on this little arrow here, and then you can actually ask the questions by typing into that box there. So I'm going to get rid of that. Amelia Smith can't see anyone. If you log out and log back in again with the same login thing that was sent, that usually sorts these things out. So if you have a go at that, that would be great. So I'm going to ask Katie to go first to tell us a bit about yourself. Thank you.
Hello, so as David said, my name's Katie and I work at Queen Mary in London. My job role is in imaging. So what I do is I take photographs of the insides of animals. So I can use instruments like CT and X-rays. You might have heard of ultrasounds. So when you're pregnant or your mum has a baby in their belly, often you would use an ultrasound scan to have a look inside to see what's going on. So I use all of these different instruments in my job to have a look on the inside of different animals. The reason we do this is because we're looking at new ways to treat cancer and also for bone healing. So when you break a bone in your leg or your arm, if you've fallen over or something like that, sometimes when the bone heals, it doesn't always heal correctly. So sometimes it's useful to have a look at the bone with an X-ray or a different kind of scan, and then we can monitor how it's healing and maybe give you some extra treatment to make that heal better. So lots of different things that we do in my job is trying to improve how we treat people at the minute using these imaging instruments. So what I get to do is play with these big cameras and take lots of different photos in many different ways and improve the photos that we get so that we can make better choices when we do medicines and treatments in the hospital if you are unwell. So I never really thought about doing that when I was at school. I actually really hated physics. So I quite like mathematics. I know, I'm sorry, David, I shouldn't say that on here, but when I was young, I really liked mathematics. And then went into secondary school and quite enjoyed biology. Didn't really like chemistry or physics very much, but I did them and got my grades at GCSE. And then in A-level, I couldn't decide what to do. So I did German. I did some maths, I did biology, and my teacher suggested that I do physics because it's quite similar to maths and will stand me in good stead. So I did that, and I ended up being the only girl and then the only person in physics at my A-level school. So it was quite different to perhaps what you're used to at the moment, and things are improving. So if you look at physics at GCSE and A-level now, you get a lot more girls in that area than you would have done perhaps 10, 15 years ago when I was at school. So from my A-levels, I actually didn't get the grades that I wanted to go to university to study mathematics, which is what I was really interested in, because I didn't get my physics grade that needed to get me into the course. So what happened is I got a call from some lecturers at University of Leicester, from the physics department actually, who said, hey, we saw that you're interested in maths with astronomy, because I really liked space and stars and planets. Why don't you join our physics course, because we have space and you're obviously clever enough because you're quite good at maths. Would you like to come and join us? And I said, why not? I've got nothing to lose. Let's try it out and let's see how we go. So when I got to university, I actually didn't quite like the astronomy part at all. What I really liked was the imaging, so the X-rays and the ultrasound and the MRI, all of the different types of photographs we can take of the insides of you. And I found that really interesting and exciting. So I then took some more modules in that region and started working in imaging physics. And that's what I do now. What we also were asked to talk about was our hobbies. So on top of the physics, I really like to make animals and toys and clothes. So this jumper I made myself, which is very exciting. It's nice and warm. And I also in the process of making a nautilus, which is nearly finished out of crochet and wool. My other hobbies include exercise. So I do a lot of boxing and running and cycling. So I'm not just about physics and science. I have quite a lot of other varied hobbies as well. So I hope you are well introduced to me as a person, and please feel free to ask any questions you like. I'll happily answer any of them. And I think that's it, David.
Excellent, thank you. We've had a couple of questions in already from somebody called Florence, who's asking what a physicist is and what do you do as a physicist. So hopefully you've answered a couple of those already. Now it's Claire's turn to tell us her version of what a physicist is.
Okay, thank you very much, David. So thanks, girls, for all tuning in this evening. My name's Claire, and I'm a university lecturer. I lecture in both maths and physics at the University of Lincoln. So as well as teaching university students, I also do a lot of research as part of my job. So I'm really interested in fluids. So this is what we call liquids and gases. And I'm really keen to find out how they flow. So this is actually one of the oldest branches of physics. So it dates all the way back to ancient Greek times and a philosopher that was called Archimedes. So one evening, he was drawing himself a nice deep bath. And as he climbed in the bath and sat down, all the water sloshed over the side of the bath and went all over the floor. So he really wanted to understand why this had happened. So that was where this branch of physics that's called fluid dynamics came from. So I also have a confession to make. I did not specialise in physics at school. I was actually much more interested and much better at mathematics. And so I loved all the sciences. I think biology was actually my favourite when I was at school. But what I came to realise is you can't even begin to understand science without having a good grounding in mathematics. So don't get me wrong, I think maths can be really, really hard sometimes. But what I really like about it is that there's always kind of a correct answer. So with enough practice, you can work towards getting that right answer. So when I was at school, I really didn't have a clue what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I liked that studying maths kind of kept lots of different options open for me. So I decided to go to university and study for a maths degree. And this is when I first got introduced to this field of fluid dynamics, which I just absolutely fell in love with. So I really liked learning about how we can predict the weather. I love learning about aerodynamics and how we can make the shape of cars and trains and aeroplanes much more streamlined to make them go faster. And I think it's absolutely fascinating how fluid dynamics has helped us understand this coronavirus. So when we have people coughing or sneezing, this branch of physics allows us to understand how those droplets move through the air. And so that's why the scientists are telling us how important it is for us adults to wear masks when we go and do our supermarket shopping. So when I was at university, I got offered a job where I could carry on studying the fluid dynamics. And I was actually really taken aback. I just didn't know what to say. I didn't realise that being a scientist was an actual job, and I'd never imagined that I could actually be a scientist. So I said to my supervisor, oh, I'm not really sure about this. I'm going to go and ask my dad for some advice. And so I got home, I called my dad up. I said, Dad, I think I've been offered this job in the university to kind of carry on studying fluids. I don't really know what to say. And so my dad goes to me, Claire, is somebody offering to pay you money to do something that you absolutely love? And I said, when you put it like that, yeah, I think that's exactly what's happening. So he was like, oh, you've absolutely answered your own question. You should go for it, Claire. And so that's when I kind of started my career, I guess, as a physicist, working on these fluid dynamics problems. And so I've absolutely loved my job. I've been able to travel all over the world and meeting different physicists and talking about our research. I even got to live in America for 2 years and work in a physics lab over there, which was really, really fun. A couple of years ago, I went down to the Houses of Parliament in London and showcased my research to some members of Parliament down there, which was an absolutely great day. And I also had a fantastic opportunity to meet up with Princess Anne, so the Queen's daughter, and have a little chat to her about my work. So that was a really proud moment for me. So now I'm at Lincoln. I've just started to teach some university students the joys of fluid dynamics. So yeah, we're settled in Lincoln. When I'm not doing physics, I love to get outdoors, and we do a lot of camping and walking. And I think one of my favourite places is in the Peak District. So thanks very much for listening, everyone. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Oh, David, I think you're muted.
God, that's the first time I've done that in about 30 of these. Right, it's absolutely brilliant. All of us physicists, I'm one too, we love doing what we do, and sometimes I'm amazed that we get paid for it. And so finally, we're going to hand over to Lama to tell us a bit about herself as well.
All right. Thank you, and hi everyone. I'm Lama, and I'm very happy to be here with you all. It's a shame that I can't see you. Can't see you face to face, but it's been a weird year, insane year. So I am a physicist, although I've been a physicist for 17 years now, a proper physicist for 17 years, but I've always liked to find things out. And this is maybe the meaning what physicist is you have the passion of knowing how things work and how things behave. When I was your age, I wanted to be an astronaut. I was and still I am fascinated about maybe spacewalks, how big and wide space suits are, the waddly moon walks, how spacecrafts are designed and fly into space. So in school, I loved physics and I loved math as well. And I found there is a very beautiful friendship between physics and math. Physics always asks math to help explaining a lot of physics problems, and math is always there for help. So, for example, how rainbow is formed, how guitar strings are moving, how spacecrafts are going to space. All of this can be understood by this very special friendship between physics and math. The things that I didn't like in science classes is that my science teachers didn't show me how cool physics is, how fun physics and math are when we apply it to everyday lives. Apart from science, I didn't like history. I think if I have horrible history show in my time, everything would have been all right. But after I finished my high school, I was determined to carry on studying physics in university. So in university, I studied physics and math and chemistry, but I was still focusing on this friendship that I told you about between physics and math. So I am a mathematical physicist. I use mathematics to understand physics phenomena. Now I teach physics and math at university, and I'm trying to keep digging into the hidden secrets behind this special friendship. One of the projects that I do is understanding how heat is behaving. For example, how evaporation of droplets and sometimes blood droplets are behaving. One of my very close projects to mine, similar to your parents, have smartphones, and similar to smart TV. Have you heard of smart clothes? Have you heard of clothes that makes you warm when you're cold or cool you down when you're warm? Yes, there are something like this. You can't buy them yet, but they are under research, and we are trying to make them as friendly as possible to people. So, and this is done by this friendship that I told you between math and between physics. Having said all of this, apart from science, I think it's important to have this passion towards science and to improve your physics skills. But also, it's important to take care of your physical health. When you have strong physical health, you have strong mind as well. So in your free time, and this advice to my daughter who's watching as well, in your free time, don't go to behind the screen and play with online gaming. Go out for a walk, go out for cycling, go out for running with your parents. I'm 35 years old and I've learned how to ride a bike a couple of months ago. I know you're saying you're 35 and you don't know how to ride a bike. Well, yes, but I tried and I did it and I love it. So go out there, discover nature out there. It's a lot there to learn and discover. If you will allow me, Dave, for a couple of minutes, I'd like to show a couple of things in. So I'm in the lab here, and I'd like to show you beside the beautiful Christmas tree. We have something here called the harmonograph. Harmonograph are two oscillators swinging together and performing very, very nice shape here, very nice pattern. I'll let Ellen.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm just getting away for 1 second.
So we'll put the pen down and I'll show you, hopefully you can see the pattern that is drawing on the paper. It's very nice drawing. This drawing, by the way, it has a name. It's called Lisa Jou figures. And this beautiful setup is called a harmonograph. You can have 2 oscillators and sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. The more oscillators you have, the more beautiful figures you'll get. Hopefully you can see it clearly.
Yes, we
Yeah.
Perfect. And here we can do exactly the same, but it's Christmas, so we have to use glitter. So you can use glitter and sand to produce also Lisa Jou figures. In the time Ellen can prepare this, I will show you something even cooler. Have you heard about rainbow columns? Rainbow columns is just water and salt with different densities. So the more with different amount of salt. So the more amount of salt you have, the bottom it goes. So then the lighter, then the lighter, then the lighter. We use food coloring here to show you the different amount of salts we have, and ta-da, we have rainbow columns. All right, so we'll go back to Ellen to see if we can produce a figure here. 1, 2, go. And hopefully you can see a very beautiful pattern, Lisa Jou patterns, performing in sand and glitter.
Wow.
It's very beautiful, and the different frequency you have, or the different oscillation you have, the different swinging you have, the more different shapes of patterns you'll get. So it's very similar to this one. Look, this is the ending shape we have. So yeah, these are our beautiful things that we wanted to show you in our lab. Hopefully they're interesting. So yeah, that's it.
That's absolutely fantastic. I am definitely going to be making one of those colour columns over Christmas. That's going to be one of my little.
Thanks
And,
for she did everything.
and thank you for your assistant as well.
Us too.
This too, I'm a technician and I love the art of physics, I like to call this.
Yeah,
This is my passion.
art
I
with
love
physics. So you can join any subject with physics and you will come up with a very beautiful thing at the end.
If anybody wants to make one of those at home, I do happen to know that in supermarkets there is a kind of water called Voss water, which comes in a glass jar exactly like that. So you're able to, it's really expensive water and you're going to throw it away, but you will get actually one of those glass jars, so you'll be able to do that.
I think Alan told me there are a lot of YouTube videos. There are a lot of YouTube videos that can show you how to make these rainbows, rainbow colors.
We use salt because if you use sugar, it can go mouldy. So if you are going to do one, but yeah, Bruce Yeaney, he's your man on YouTube. I nick all my ideas from him. He's my hero.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, so we've had a load of questions coming in. Everybody's been waiting very patiently. The first one from Laura, I think I can probably guess the answer to this already, and it's an answer to all three of you. Do you love your job?
Absolutely love my job.
Yes.
Sure.
I think yes. There's somebody. If you love something and then people will pay you to do it, that's brilliant, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Gracie Jane would like to know if you're ever confused being a scientist. Do you ever run into things you don't know?
Always.
All the
Every,
time.
Right,
every day.
We'll get to Katie first, and
Yeah, I'm always confused, but in a good way. I don't really know what's happening, and I really want to know why this is happening. And so you get to sit down, and I work in a really nice team of many different people. So we're not just physicists, we're also biologists and chemists and radiochemists as well, because we use radiation sometimes. And often we'll sit down and go, we've got this weird problem. We don't know what's going on. How do we find out the answer? And then you spend loads of hours, lots of time, lots of chatting and working it out and doing sums on calculators and things like that. And eventually you're like, today I had one of these moments. And there's like, little light bulb comes on, and it's the best feeling in the world when you're like, I see what's going on. This is why, and this is how we fix it, or this is how we use it to our advantage. So it's really exciting to get to the end of the confusion. So I love the journey as well, because you never know what's going to happen.
Lama, do you want to add anything to that?
I think every problem we have, it's like a puzzle. So you just put the pieces in until you figure out the whole picture at the end. But I think the thing that I would like to say, like an advice, don't give up. If you come up to a problem and say, I don't get it, don't just leave it and go. Leave it and go, but come back to it again and just say, I'm gonna try to understand it, and you will do it at the end. You will make it at the end.
Claire, I have a couple of questions for you, I think, from Margarita. Firstly, she wanted to know where in America you got to live, and she'd also like to know, what is physics and maths combined? Why can you combine them both?
Why can you combine them? So when I was in America, I lived in Washington, DC. So where the president lives, I was living very close to the White House there, and works at a lovely university called Georgetown University. And I was right in the physics lab there, so we had lots of people doing very cool experiments in the lab upstairs. I think, as Lana said, physics and maths just have a beautiful friendship, because the mathematics and the equations that you can write down really helps us to understand the physical problems.
Excellent. Anybody want to add to that, or shall we move on to the next one? Okay, Florence has a couple of questions here. Firstly, have any of you ever spoken to a whole school about your job? So have you been into school and done it? And secondly, were you ever picked on because you like stuff like maths and science? So shall we go to Lama first? You want to...
I haven't spoken in front of school, unfortunately, before. I've spoken at universities, yes, before. And you'll get this butterflies in your stomach before each talk, but as long as you start speaking, everything will be all right. The second question was,
have you ever been picked on because you?
Yes. Yes. So when I say I studied physics and math, oh my God, you just lost me here. So why did you pick math? Why did you pick physics? Why didn't you pick, for example, art or literature? Or so yeah, yeah. I've been picked on previously, but as long as I love what I'm doing, I love the subject that I'm doing, I'm passionate about it. Yeah, that's fine.
Katie, have you spoken in the school?
Yeah, I used to work in the National Space Centre, which is in Leicester, and we often did loads of talks in schools, and we had lots of children from schools, from high school as well as primary school, come in, and we'd show them meteorites, and we'd show them spacesuits and all sorts of things like that. And we used to give tours in the planetarium, which is great fun because you get to see all the stars on the screen. It's like a 3D cinema. It's really cool. But after that, that was the job I did before this one. I still get to do talks like this, so I don't know how many of you are here. Can you tell us how many we've got, David?
There are about 30 people in the room at the moment.
30?
Well,
okay,
sorry, there are 30 logins. There might be, I think there are probably more than one person behind some of the screens as well. So let's say there's about 60 people in the room.
Oh, lovely. So that's a good size. Yeah, that's quite a lot of people. So thank you all for joining us. It's really nice to talk to all of you. And the other question was about bullying, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think people always assume and unfamiliar with things that they're not used to. So even if you're in a room of physicists or in a room of mathematicians, if I say, oh, I do imaging stuff, they're all a bit like, oh, okay, that's different. And some people don't react very well to people that are a little bit different. So I would never be ashamed of what I do, because I absolutely love it. And some people are bullies because they don't understand. And maybe if you talk to them a bit, they might understand why you like it so much.
Claire, have you been to a school?
No, haven't given any talks in a full school, unfortunately.
We'll sort that out. We'll get you in front of some students. That'll be great.
Absolutely. Love that.
Okay, Laura would like to know, what is the favourite part of your jobs, all of you, and also Lama specifically, do you have any people to test the smart clothes on? I think she wants to volunteer. So Lama, do you want to go first on that?
Why not? So the smart textiles are not for human testing yet. So they're not human friendly, let's say. We are still trying to research how we can design them, how we can deliver them, how we can. I think the very first step for them is a medical thing. So if someone is ill, someone is sick, we can provide something that cools them down, that can measure their temperature, for example, measure their blood pressure. So they're smart, but they are not tested on humans yet, because they're not friendly to humans, because they have electronic parts, electronic devices. So we're trying to see if how we can make it human friendly, and then you will be the first one to test them.
So Claire, what's the favorite part, your favorite part of your job?
One of my favorite parts of my job is the traveling, actually, and getting to meet new people, and talk about physics with lots and lots of different people. Because yeah, physics is hard. We spend a lot of our days confused and trying to tackle problems. And the best way to do this is to get more people involved, ask other people to help you out, discuss the problems. So it breaks down that big problem into lots of little chunks, the more and more people you can get involved, I think. So yeah, one of my favourite parts is travelling, getting to see lots of different countries and the way different groups work in different physics labs. And yeah, and asking them for their help, really, because I couldn't get this far without help from other people.
Katie, do you have a favourite bit?
Yeah, it's a toss-up between two different parts. So like I said earlier, I work with lots of different people, so it's not just a room of physicists. I work with sometimes doctors and clinicians as well. So and biologists and technicians and engineers. We get all sorts of different people, and it's really interesting to have those conversations about your work with them and to hear about what they do. Often people will come to me and say, hey, I really want to image this really intricate part of somebody's tooth. Can we image it? Sure. What do we want to see? What do you want to know? What are we going to do to this tooth? So we get some really interesting projects coming through the door all the time. And then the other part that I'd like is that we do a lot of work with animals. So we do a lot of medical research. So sometimes we have to use animals to do that, but sometimes you can get lots of cuddles. So we often have these really adorable rats in the animal unit, and rats are very social animals. They're like small dogs. They really love cuddles. And so part of my job is to go cuddle rats for half an hour every day. So it's really fun to do that.
Okay, I've got a question here from Amelia, who wants to know how long it takes to become a physicist. Now, just before anybody answers that, I'll show you that badge there. What does that say in the middle? It says, I am a physicist. And as soon as you start doing this badge, as soon as you start asking questions, as soon as you start doing experiments and things like that, you are already a physicist. Now, the people in this room have pieces of paper that say they're physicists as well, and probably some photographs somewhere of them wearing silly hats and robes and things. But as soon as you start doing this, you're a physicist. But I guess the question is, how long does it take to be somebody who gets paid to do it? Would anyone like to jump in on that? Anyone? Claire, go on. Tell us how long it takes to be a physicist.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember how old I am now. But yeah, I think I moved around doing lots and lots of different jobs. And this one at Lincoln is kind of my first permanent job where I can see myself kind of staying there for a long time, continuing my research, but then also teaching students as well. So I'm 31 years old now, so I think it's taken me 31 years to become an established physicist. But as David says, you're a physicist from day one. As soon as you do that first experiment, you're there.
Katie, do you want to tell us how long you go to university for?
So I went to university 18, and then I did a 4-year undergraduate course to get my master's, and then I did a 4-year PhD. So I spent 8 years studying, and I'm still at university. So it's been over 10 years that I've been at university now. But now I get paid to be there rather than pay to go.
When you're at school, when you go to secondary school, you will start studying physics separately in year 10. And you can do that through to year 11, and then you can do another 2 years at school, years 12 and 13 as well. Right, let's go to Lama and ask the next question, also from Amelia. No, that was Amelia's. Naomi, age 7, would like to know, what's the most difficult thing about your job? Well, there's an easy question. Go on.
Difficult thing. What's the difficult thing in my job?
Being asked this question.
Wow. I think maybe persistence. So you need to, yeah, don't give up, and always fill yourself with courage every day, every time you feel down. Just you can do it. So maybe this is the hardest thing. Also the pressure, maybe you have to teach students, you have to do research, you have to develop yourself as a physicist, you have to encourage students to be the best. So you have a lot on your plate, so you need to be organized as well. So yeah, maybe this is the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things is finding the time to do everything that you want to do, right?
Exactly.
Enough hours in a day.
Yeah, prioritizing what's important for that day, and doing a proper list of, okay, this is really important, needs to be done this week, but actually today, this thing needs to get done first.
Excellent. In fact, that's great, because Lily in Hereford did want to know, do you like having really difficult problems to solve?
Yes.
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 If you ever speak to any more scientists other than us and ask them that question, they'll probably say yes and no. You'll hate it at the time, but you'll love the challenge, because it's
sure.
part of being a scientist.
When it's easy, it's not a problem anymore.
No.
So it's not a challenge anymore. It has
It's
to
a
be
bit
hard.
boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Amy and Caitlin asked the same question at exactly the same time. They both popped up at the same time. What is your favourite experiment or project? Anybody want to jump in?
So I've got a really fun one with.
Yeah.
Go on, Claire.
Go ahead. Oh, so I have a really fun one that you can also Google on YouTube. You can do it at home too. So you can mix up some custard powder. And if you Google the YouTube video, you can see these guys actually running across a big bath of custard powder. When you touch that fluid, it goes like a solid, so you can actually run across it. So check that out on YouTube. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, probably don't want to do it in a bath. Maybe do it in a jug or a washing up bowl or something like that. Lama, I think you were about to jump in as well.
I love the experiment where you have pepper spray on a plate and you dip it with a washing liquid and then everything will go away, run away. I really like this one. I like the harmonograph that I showed you earlier. Yeah.
That's my new favourite as well, the harmonograph. I'm gonna rig something up at home and then play with that.
I love the fact that none of you said anything that uses a big piece of equipment or anything you've been working on. That's great. All right. Right. Sorry, I just lost this for a second. Amelia's mum wants to know, she's based 20 minutes from Lincoln and is a science lead in the primary school. She wants you to come in and see them, Claire.
So, I'd love to do that.
I'll tell you what, if you
get my contact details.
Yeah, if you can't just contact the Lincoln University and say that you saw Claire, then I think that's. Do you want to tell us what email address you use, Claire, or do you want me to send it through? Do you want to send it to me and I'll send it through also?
Yeah, I can. So it's just C McIlroy, and that's at lincoln.ac.uk.
There we go. Right, excellent. Naomi would like to know if any of you have any heroes.
Oh, that's a hard one.
I'm assuming science heroes, but it could be anything.
Very hard question.
Looks like you've stumped them, Naomi.
Am I allowed to say my dad? He's always been my hero. He's always supported me every step of the way. Yeah.
Anyone else? No. Right, that's a stumping one.
Yeah, Ellen said Nikola Tesla here.
This is a question for Lama. Margarita wants to know, where did those machines that you were showing us come from?
We made them.
That's what I was hoping you were going to say. Would you like to say a bit more?
We made them, both the sand and the glitter and the harmonograph. We both made them, and the this rainbow columns. We all made them, homemade.
Right, Molly has a question for. Sorry, were you done? Yeah.
No, all right.
Molly has a question for Katie. What is the most interesting thing that you have seen in one of the images that you've taken from animals?
Ooh.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. Yeah. I did do a photograph of a mouse with 9 little babies inside of her, and it was adorable. And you could see all their little, they all have their own little circular sacs that they're inside, and they're all inside together, all cozied up in her belly. It was absolutely beautiful. I think that's probably my favourite, and so different to everything else that we do, because we do a lot of cancer research and bone work, and that was a pregnancy investigation, and it was really cool. It was really interesting.
Fantastic. Gracie Jane would like to know if you were scared on your first day at work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Claire, do you want to go first?
Yeah, the unknown is always a little bit scary, I think, particularly when you kind of take on a new role. It's all new, new people. new place of work, particularly when I went to America as well, and I was really far away from my family. That was pretty scary, but it's really just made me such a stronger person, I think, by pushing me out my comfort zone and making myself go and do all these new things. I think it's really important to kind of grow as a person.
Lama, did you find it scary?
Yes, yes. When you go to a different place, different environment, different job, different school, different university, you will find the first day weird. But give it time, talk to people, just try to blend in, and everything will be all right.
Katie, anything to add? Or
Yeah, I mean, it is scary when you go somewhere new. And so normally I'm living in Leicester and I get the train to London to go to work and to get to my lab. So getting on the train for the first time and having to go into a big city and making sure you get in the right place and there's no delays, because if you have one train delayed, then the next one might be delayed and then you might be late. So it was quite stressful. And then walking from the station and getting to my new workplace is quite a big ordeal for your first day as well. So yeah, but once you got there, everybody was really nice, really helpful, very chatty. And I find with most people, they're always willing to say hello and have a conversation if you just say hi. So even though they seem scary, most people are nice and will talk to you anyway.
Wendy would like to know, what's your favourite or most memorable research project you've been involved in? So I think now you're being specifically asked about your work projects. So what's your favourite one that you've done in your professional life? Shall we go to Lama first?
Yeah, I think the project that I did with smart textiles, smart clothes, is the one that interests a lot of people, and I think will benefit a lot of people as well. Whether in medical sector, whether in military sector, whether in for babies, I think it will benefit a lot of people. Once it's safe, human friendly, it has a lot of promises and potential. Yeah.
Claire, same question to you.
So I guess kind of what I'm working on at the moment is what I'm really excited about at the moment. I'm doing a project about 3D printing. So the idea is you can print and extrude out of material, like squeezing out toothpaste from a toothpaste tube, and build it up to make these 3D objects. And one of the really cool applications is actually in what's called tissue engineering. So this is where we can basically grow cells into kind of a tissue or an organ or something to place into the body. So I've been working on how we can 3D print tissue scaffolds and make them really strong and stable to grow these cells on at the moment. So yeah, it's a really fun project.
Excellent. Katie?
I'd say one of my most memorable and favourite is still ongoing now. It's a long-term project, and it's looking at a different treatment for some lung cancer. So the problem with lungs is they're really hard to image because they're just air. There's not really much in there. It's very difficult to take a photo of just air. So we spent a lot of time trying to get a picture of the lungs, but also to see if this treatment was working. So we'd have some quite sick mice with some nodules, so little lumps inside their lungs that stop them from breathing very well. And then we'd give them some treatment to see if it would help remove those nodules and if they would get smaller. And so we can take lots of different photographs over the weeks to see how small those little lumps will go and hopefully improve the mouse's breathing. So it was really interesting because it's not something we'd ever done before.
Okay, Rosie wants you to cast your minds back now. She'd like to know how old you were when you decided you wanted to become a physicist. And Katie's already revealed that she didn't want to be. So when did you change your mind, Katie?
I think probably about my third year at uni. So that would have been when I was about 20, 21. And because that was when I first did the imaging modules. So I did like an X-ray and an ultrasound, and I worked out how these cameras worked and could see some photos and could see how to make them more interesting and better. And I did some projects in the hospital with some doctors at the same time in my university degree. And then I was like, yeah, this is cool. I really like this. I want to get involved. And that's kind of when I decided, actually, maybe I did make the right choice when I took physics and came to university. It's a little bit late than most, probably.
Lama, how about you?
I think during high school, well, when I wanted to be an astronaut, I think I was sure that I will end up in physics, but I didn't know what physics is. I think I was 7, 8 years. So yeah, I just want to know about space, about planets, about why astronauts wear this big fluffy white spacesuits. So I wanted to know answers. And at that age, I didn't know that this is called physics, or this is called the person who does that called scientist. But in that age, I named this person cool person. He is cool person, or she is cool person. So, but during high school, I learned why physics is really cool, why physics is important, not only cool. And yeah, I decided to go into physics.
Brilliant. Claire, when was maths and physics the big deal for you?
Yeah, I think I really got into maths, I think, during my A-levels, so when I was about 17. And as I said in my intro, I had no idea that kind of being a scientist, being a physicist was even a job you could pursue. So I think you guys are so lucky that you're getting to meet all these different physicists. But yeah, when I was in the final year of my university degree, about same as Katie, about 2021, where I finally realised you could actually pursue this as a career.
Right, one for Lama specifically. Somebody wants to know how much salt do you need for that rainbow thing?
No, I think we need to ask Ellen, but Ellen is not here. But I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
there was, I believe, if you look on YouTube, there will be videos of people showing you how. Margarita would like to know if any of you have any favourite tools. Interesting question. Any thoughts, anyone? I've just
Can't go wrong with a screwdriver. There's always something that needs unscrewing and taking apart in the lab, and there's always another pesky screw in the way. So we always have a whole set of spanners and screwdrivers in our lab, which are highly sought after, and we have to lock them away because people sometimes take them when they're not supposed to. It's a little bit of a fight.
How about you, Lama?
Well, I am a theoretical physicist. I don't work in lab much, so my favorite tool is a computer and a pen. So yeah.
Claire.
Yes, we've been doing so much online teaching this year. So for me, it has to be my tablet with a stylus so I can write virtually to students at home at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Amy wants to know what is the trickiest thing about being a physicist. So is there anything you find particularly difficult today? I love these questions that stump you all. Yeah. It's brilliant. What are your...
Maybe
I think for me, oh sorry.
Sorry, go on, Kate.
I think for me it's because I'm a physicist in a department that's not physics. So I work in a biological department and a medical facility, and so lots of people think I understand a lot of biology when I don't, and they talk to me as if I know everything, and then I have to be like, I don't understand half the words you just said. let's roll it back and to explain what cells are, explain what this medical condition is you want to image. Like, you need to really dumb it down for me, and I have to do the same for them because I am the only physicist with my training, but it comes together really nicely. You just have to be able to talk to each other in a simple way. I think sometimes that's quite difficult.
Yeah, one of the trickiest things is really trying to explain to my mum what my job is.
I think that also answers Caitlin's question about what you find really hard. So that's good. Erin would like to know if any of you were Girl Guides or brownies or rainbows. Anyone? Claire,
Yeah,
there's a nodding Claire.
yeah. I didn't make it to Girl Guides, I don't think, but I was a brownie.
Anyone else? No? I think you all missed out, to be perfectly honest. My daughter is a guide. She was a rainbow and a brownie as well. Wendy would like to know. Wendy would like to know, since working in physics, have you seen more women studying in this area of science since you started?
Absolutely.
Would you like to expand a bit?
Yeah, I just think each year, particularly seeing the student intakes, now I'm a lecturer, it's very 50-50, or it's getting towards 50-50, I think, particularly at Lincoln, which is just fantastic to see.
Okay, Imogen would like to know, in the morning, do you look forward to going out of the door and going to your job? I mean, we don't go out the door at the moment, but do you look forward to going to your job?
Yeah.
Lama, do you want to?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. If you love your job, you live for it. So you wake up and can't wait to just write to-do list of every morning and get on with the job. Yeah.
Right. Erin would like to know, do any of you have a microscope? And if you do, what's the most interesting thing you've looked at?
Unfortunately not.
No?
So I have
No?
a camera which is not quite a microscope, but it doesn't go that small, but I have a big CT and a big MRI. So we don't look at things like microscopes, but we can look inside you with our cameras, which is very similar to what a microscope does. So they're quite big though. You can't put them on the desk. They're more like a bed size. They're quite large.
So I don't have my own microscope, but I have a lot of friends that have cool microscopes and share their pictures with me. So we do a lot of work looking at how different materials crystallize. So you can see really intricate crystal patterns as things solidify and crystallize.
Excellent. Right. Margarita, I think, was actually intrigued when somebody was talking about travel. So she'd like to know, do you get to move around a lot? What kind of travel is there involved in being a physicist?
So I guess that's directed at me. So one of the really cool things about being a physicist is that we get to go to lots of conferences. And the idea of a conference is that you can go and you can give a presentation to other physicists about your work. And these happen all over the world. So I've been to so many cool places to present my research at different conferences.
Go on, list some. Go on, show off.
So one of my favourite places I think I went to was Japan a few years ago. So I got to visit Tokyo and a beautiful city called Kyoto in Japan and soak up all that Japanese culture and sushi and things. That was really fun.
Lama, do you get to gallivant around the world?
Yes, I remember a conference I attended in Trieste in Italy when I visited the International Institution of Theoretical Physics. The city was magnificent. It's on the sea, and the institution is very, very good. So yeah, I still remember that conference, and I was second year PhD student.
Katie, Leicester, London, anywhere else?
Yeah. So actually quite a lot of the work that I do now, I do on these machines, but with the engineers. So the people that built them and the people that have installed them for us. So one of the newest ones we have is by a group in the Netherlands. And so I got to go out there into Utrecht, which is a very nice town. It's like a nicer Amsterdam, I would say. It's very similar, but a lot quieter with lots of beautiful canals. So I really, really enjoy doing those kinds of trips. I learned a lot, obviously, and asked loads of questions, but you know, it was beautiful.
The other thing that nobody said, which I should point out, is other people pay for this. We don't have to pay for this ourselves. So, Margarita has a follow-up question. Have any of you been to Bulgaria?
No, I haven't been to Bulgaria.
Right, we'll add that to the list of places we want to go to. Laura, so Imogen wants to know, are you ever scared to get anything wrong? What's it?
Yes.
Anybody want to talk about getting things wrong in physics?
I'm never scared to get something wrong, because I think you have to get it wrong a few times before you can get it perfect. So I think getting things wrong is all in the learning process.
It still scares me though. I still don't want to get it wrong. But I'm more comfortable with it than I was. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Gracie Jane would like to know if you've had any favourite moments in your career, any just little moment when you've really gone, yes, this is brilliant. Katie's nodded already.
Well, I had quite a lot of problems in my PhD, so that was after I did my first degree at university. I did another one, and now it means I can be called doctor, which is really entertaining. But during that, right at the end, you have to write a book basically on what you've done throughout the whole 4 years or 3 years that you've been studying. And then you give this book to a couple of very clever people, and they read it and they go through it and go, oh, I don't think that's quite right, or you should have done a bit more work on here. And you sit down and talk with them for about 3-4 hours, and they decide whether or not you pass. And they say, yes, we agree you've done enough, well done, you can be called doctor. Or they go, oh, we want you to do a little bit more work, and come back again. And when I'd finished this 3-4 hour exam kind of thing, and they were like, yes, congratulations, doctor, just 4 years worth of work. It's a long time, 4 whole years of your everyday, everything you've ever wanted to achieve in their hands. And they suddenly say, yes, it's great. And you're like, yes. It's such an amazing feeling to have that.
I can see it on your face right now. You were living that moment.
I had so many problems, so many machines broke down, and I couldn't get the results that I needed. So I had to rely on colleagues in different places. So I had some friends in York that had the same camera, so I could send him things to then image for me. So it was a right palaver. So I was so happy when they were like, it's fine, we think you've still done enough. It's like, oh, thank you.
Lama, do you have anything to rival that?
She has explained everything I wanted to say beautifully. Exactly what I was going to say, especially that my viva or my exam lasted for 4 hours and a half. So it was long. So when I finished, yes. So yeah, that was the thing.
Claire, is it the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that doctorate, kind of the pinnacle.
Sorry, go on.
I also won an award for my master's dissertation. So I was nominated for Maths Student of the Year award. So I got to go to this very swanky award ceremony that I always say was kind of like the Oscars, but for geeky people. And I got to take my dad and my dissertation supervisor, and we had a really posh night out in London where I won this award. So that was really great.
Well done.
I'm feeling really left out now. I'm the only person in the room not called Doctor somebody. So I think obviously I need to get into that at some point. Right, there's a few questions left, but I'm afraid we've only got time for one really quick one left, which is Amy wants to know, where did you all go to university?
I went to the University of Leeds.
Excellent. Katie?
I went to the University of Leicester.
There we go. Excellent. Midlands. Lama?
I went to the University of Nottingham.
East Midlands, love it, absolutely love it. Right, thank you very, very much, all three of you, for coming along and doing that with us this evening. I hope we've answered some questions that people have had. I hope everybody's had a really good time. I love the fact that we've seen into a laboratory. It makes me miss getting out. You know, I've been stuck in this room for months now. So thank you, Claire. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Lama, all for coming. Thank you, everybody who came along to watch this. If any of you are ordering badges, I have them on order from the suppliers. They have promised me they were going to be with us in the next week or so. So if anybody's waiting for the back thing, I've got 2,000 coming. Being part of this journey is absolutely brilliant because we've had over 22,500 girls do the badge so far. And we haven't even rolled it out nationally yet. So if you, I noticed somebody from Hereford and so on, well done for finding out about it. It's absolutely brilliant that you're doing it. So I now have to go off and host a lecture on climate change, which is something we still haven't talked about this evening. But thank you, Claire. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lama.
Thank
and
you.
thank you, everybody, for coming. Have an absolutely fantastic evening. And some of you should really think about being a physicist. Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.